So it isn't, that we have a lack of talent. So we really have a new, old model of developing software. You don't have to use, you can go to SourceForge and you can use portions of the software. You can use libraries from some project. You don't have to use the whole thing. But this is software that already has been written, already has been tested, and you can utilize that. So here, you're now being paid for a service. The service in copying and distributing the software. A service in getting the features in that you need. A service in integration. And a lot of people are upset about the word service because they think of it like flipping hamburgers or painting lines on the sidewalk and stuff. And those are reasonable jobs for people that like them. I don't happen to like them. I happen to think of myself more like a brain surgeon. A brain surgeon does not create a product. You don't end up with a second brain when they get finished. They fix the brain you have. And yet you don't go out and look in the newspaper for the advertisement that says, I do brain surgery cheap. I don't wash my hands between brain surgeries. I use last year's x-ray machine. You don't look for that because your brain's important to you. And to any business person, their business is more important than their brain. Just ask them. Hey, take my brain, I don't care, but leave my business. Likewise, a lawyer. God knows lawyers don't produce anything, right? But we pay them a lot of money for their expertise and their knowledge, and we try and follow what they say. So these are why the service is important. And let me give you a tip. This is a great #1 tip. For heaven's sakes, don't go out and charge minimum for your services. The thing you should be doing is you should be talking to the customer and saying, what is this worth to you? If I can automate this process, how much does this process cost you every year? Oh, that costs me about $2 million a year. How much would you pay me if I could automate that? Well, I'd pay you $500,000. And then that's when you go in, you write your 12 lines of Perl code and say, there it is. They say, wait a minute, you only spent 10 minutes writing 12 lines of Perl code. Yeah, but you don't pay the brain surgeon for the 10 minutes they're in the operating room. You pay them because they spent 28 years learning where to make that incision. You should be paid for the value you bring, not the cost. Let me introduce you. We're getting close to the end here. Let me introduce you to a couple people. Okay? This person in the upper right-hand corner, art history major, started a little company using free software. You may have heard of them, called Red Hat. That's Eric Troen, one of the 3 people that started it. Eric is now a multi-millionaire. This guy right here was listening to me at a software conference in Raleigh a couple years ago, 1999. He wanted to start his own company, software support company, but he needed a PBX system, a telephone system to route telephone calls, and they were $20,000 to $30,000. So he decided to write his own. You may have heard of it. It's called Asterisk. His name is Mark Spencer. He has a company now that employs several hundred people and thousands more around the planet installing Asterisk PBX systems. He's a multimillionaire. This guy right here is not a multimillionaire. Lives a couple miles from me. Sent me an email one day, says, hi, I like free software. He's been programming since the age of 9, hacking the Linux kernel since the age of 12, writing device drivers since the age of 15, being paid $40,000 a year to do that. At the age of 19, he was a senior systems administrator at a small university in Massachusetts, redid their whole network system. At the age of 21, he helped the Federal Bureau of Investigation capture people that were hacking into people's systems from Italy by creating a honeypot and trapping them. And the last I knew, he was working with the University of Washington doing next generation special effects for things like Star Wars. Did I mention he never graduated from high school? This guy down here lives in Soweto, South Africa. He was doing consulting out of his home. Soweto, by the way, is one of the poorest cities in South Africa. He was doing consulting work out of his home, trying to help Linus Torvalds find a problem with the AMC memory management unit. And this guy right here started his own distribution. He had sold 20,000 copies of it at the age of 14 before his parents found out what he was doing. And they said, "Why didn't you tell us?" He said, "I really didn't need your help." And all of these have the same characteristics, that they used open source to be able to leverage what they were doing. They didn't need to ask anybody's permission. Nobody said to them, "How old are you? What color are you? What sex are you? What sexual persuasion are you? Are you physically handicapped?" They said, "Show me the code." They are not software slaves. And so, let's think about, can we apply this to other disciplines? I worked for an insurance company, Aetna Life and Casualty. Insurance is the ultimate commodity. You pay money, they pay you money, okay? Sometimes they hope that they never pay you money. And so one day I was called by this insurance company consortium, and they said, "Can we apply open source techniques to insurance?" I said, "Yes." You have to understand why somebody buys insurance from you instead of buying insurance from you. If you can understand that, then that is your differentiator. That is what you keep closed and proprietary. But everything else you do, you should cooperate with the other insurance companies to lower your costs as much as possible so that more people can afford to buy insurance with the same ratio of profit. You grow the insurance pie. Nobody cares what car rentals firm you use. Nobody cares what brand of paper you use. Nobody cares what computer systems you use as long as they're efficient and stay up and stuff like that. You should be cooperating to reduce those costs to a minimum so that you can sell more insurance. And now you compete with the things that are true differentiators of you. And we should be looking at how to apply this throughout our world. Now with that, I'd like to take some questions. These are some notes I took during a keynote earlier today. Microsoft is open. We now listen to customers. God bless you, Microsoft. we need standards because we need to interoperate. Well, I don't know what they were interoperating with when they bungled Kerberos or Java. And we support 392 open projects with 10,000 of them on Codeplex, but there's another 230,000 of them on SourceForge. And then I already made the comment about cloud computing. I'm a little bit jaded, I suppose, when somebody stands up and says Microsoft has changed. With that, any questions?
What's the name of the distro the 14-year-old created?
That was called Fat Linux, P-H-A-T-L-I-N-U-X. It was the first distribution that could actually install into the FAT file system, so you didn't have to repartition your disk in order to be able to use Linux. And his name is Cameron Cooper. And like I said, nobody knew about how old he was. He did this not just by himself. He had a collaborator, another 14-year-old that he had never met face to face. They just talked over the internet. And the only reason it came out that he was 14 was because a friend of mine named Jeff Gerhardt, who had an internet radio show, called him up and said, "Hey, I'd like to interview you and stuff like that." And he says, "Well, I'd like to talk to you, but I can't get there." And the guy says, "Well, I only live a couple hours away. Could you drive?" "Well, I can't drive yet." Jeff says, "How old are you?" And Cameron says, 14. And Jeff says, "Do your parents know about this?" "I don't know. I don't think they do." And Jeff says, "Could I talk with them?" And he says, "Well, yeah, okay." So Jeff called up his parents and says, "I got good news and bad news." He says, "The good news is you're not going to have to worry about what university your kid wants to go to." He says, "The bad news is you're going to have to hire an accountant to help him with all the taxes he's going to have to pay on the distributions he's selling." He was selling them for like $5 a piece, And like I said, 20,000 copies. Now, Cameron didn't study computer science when he went on to Ohio State. He said, I don't need anybody to teach me anything about software. So he studied computer engineering. And now he has his own company out of Austin, Texas. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes. Is Canonical paying their use to Linus for using the Linux trademark?
No, the Linux trademark is absolutely free. You don't have to pay any money to anybody for it.
Oh, I thought you said earlier that it was copyrighted.
No, it's part of trademark law. And part of trademark law says that you have to, as a trademark holder, you have to protect your trademark. If you don't protect your trademark, it's possible the trademark could go into the public domain, and then there's nothing you can do about it. Now, Linus actually did want to put the trademark into public domain, but here's the problem. Sometimes there's people you really don't want them to use the trademark, or they're using the trademark for what you would call an illegitimate purpose. They're using the trademark to create confusion in the marketplace instead of a brand. And there was one specific case that I was involved with because I helped to fight the trademark laws in the first place, or the trademark issue in the first place. There was a person named Deborah Richards who started a group of people called Linux Chicks. There were people that were trying to get more women into free software. And so she started up this organization she called Linux Chicks. She had linuxchicks.org. Right after she started that, there was a person who or who registered the domain linuxchicks.com, commercial, and it was a pornography site. And Deb called me up. She was in tears. She says, I worked so hard to do this, and this guy is trying to leverage off of this stuff, and I'm just so mad. I says, I'll take care of it, Deb. So I called up my lawyer, Jerry Davis. I says, Jerry, I need you to work your magic. And Jerry sent a letter to this guy. I still have a copy of it someplace. It says, hi, if you don't take down that site, we're going to sue your butt so much that you're going to be spending the rest of your life trying to pay back the money. Site was down the next day.
My problem was I didn't ask the question correctly. Are they paying royalties for their trademark?
No.